Almost 80% of Americans feel stressed about their money. Fruitful pairs you with a real human financial guide who sets up and automates your entire financial life. When your paycheck hits, everything flows where it should. No stress, no spreadsheets, just progress and peace of mind. Learn more at Fruitful.com.
Are you a player in the private equity industry? Troutman Pepper Locke is one of the leading national law firms focusing on middle market private equity. Our podcast, PE Pathways, brings on deal makers to share their thoughts on trends and developments. We do a deep dive into the M&A industry with topics around tax and employment issues, regulatory developments, and much more. Check out PE Pathways wherever you get your podcasts.
Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Trying to find some real in all the noise. You always do.
The artist you know, the story you don't. See Golden Globes nominee Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen. Critics are saying it's a career-defining performance.
Let's burn this place down, Johnny.
Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Welcome back to the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and today we got a special guest in the house. We are going to dive down the conspiracy side of the Infinite Rabbit Hole today. We do not have Jacob with us. He, from what I understand, has a boo-boo. I don't know exactly what it is, something with his back. Hopefully he's all right. But we do have old Jeffrey here with us. Jeffrey, what's going on, dude?
Just chilling, bro. Kind of full right now. I just had a big old fat slice of fresh baked bread, and I covered it with olive oil and fresh. That was my snack. It was delicious.
Did you toast it?
No, it was fucking fresh baked. You don't have to toast it.
You took fresh baked bread and you drizzled olive oil on it. It didn't make it soggy?
No, dude. I got the butt piece, so it's like nice, crispy. It was fucking perfect, bro. Don't question
dude.
Me.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking gourmet chef, dude. You don't know about me. You don't know me.
Gourmet. That's a big word. Anyways, Themor is our guest today. Themor, what's up, dude?
Hello. Welcome to Conspiracy Land Rabbit Hole, huh?
Hell yeah, man.
Infinite rabbit hole. Let's go. Let's see how deep this infinite really is.
The people from the chat will know you. You've hung out in the chat quite a few times now, and you definitely see that you're absent from the chat tonight. Used to seeing your name over there, throwing up some love for Jeff. Today's going to be a good one. Today's going to be fun. I'm not as deep as these two guys are into the conspiracy things, but I'm versed in it. Jeff said I was well versed in it, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as well versed in conspiracy, but I can hold my own.
The thing is like, enough. The thing is, to me, a true conspiracy theorist, right? And I take that term, honestly, with like a badge of honor. I know some people try to like push themselves away from that term or whatever. I wear it like a badge of honor. Now, I think a real true conspiracy theorist is not one who believes any of these crazy things necessarily, but at least is open to entertaining the ideas. And, we could go down the list and at least like name the project or name the organization or name the person and like know who these people are and shit, right? Like you can see the web. So yeah, you're well versed. You see the web.
I think I'm versed. We'll test me today. We'll see if I'm well versed.
Possibly.
We'll get a conspiracy grade from Jeff and Themor today. See.
Possibly, man. And you asked about like talking about 9/11 or anything in particular, and I don't like to put myself in a box necessarily doing these shows. On my show, I usually just kind of shoot from the hip, right? So I think that's a good idea. So I guess really what I would ask is, does anybody here know of anything that's happened recently in the last week that, or anything has been on your mind in particular that is like something you want to talk about?
So I think it's official. Jeff wants to talk about the fires. That's what he's trying to push right now. You can see through his lies, everybody. Look at him. Look at him lying.
I haven't even been paying attention to the fires. However, I did talk to Old Scary World last night for 2 hours about.
Did you?
About the fires and like smart city initiatives and all the Great Reset and all that shit. It was pretty good conversation.
Yeah. Were you on a show?
No, he came on. We did an impromptu live last night.
Oh, no shit, man. Cool. Well, why don't we leave it up to the guests, man? Let's see what our guest wants to talk about. Guest Themor. What do you want to talk about, dude?
Yeah, thanks, man. So the first thing that comes to mind when you guys were talking there is the idea of the "I want to believe" poster in the back, right? Like a good conspiracy theorist understands that you're going to have a bias, right? You want to believe, not that you know. That's not saying I know something back there. That's saying I want to believe, meaning give me all the information available and let's evaluate it. We'll go from there, right? You know, put all of your cards on the table. Let's see what they are. And then maybe we can piece this together. We can figure out what happened, right? Like a good story or a good book. There's lots of parts to it. You skip to page 58, you miss the beginning, the middle, and now you're trying to figure out what happened. You're not going to know, right? You're on page 58. You have to read what happened before, or to give it context, to give it understanding, right? So I think for conspiracy theorists in general, there's something that usually happens when they recognize that they're no longer in a state of believing. They've grown up and they're able to prove something, right? So I think it starts with all of us, like Santa Claus, right? It's a very obvious and straightforward example. Santa Claus. Well, I always wanted to believe in Santa Claus, therefore I believed in Santa Claus. But we knew that want wasn't enough. We had to have proof or evidence of Santa for Santa to be real, and we're disappointed, right? So we have come across these stories, these ideas that are being given to us. We evaluate them. We take them at face value. We try to get other people's opinions, other sources, more information. Then we try to draw some sort of conclusion. But if you're in the game long enough, you're going to come across something that you can actually demonstrably, empirically prove. And you're going to go, oh, wait, this is no longer about belief. There are people lying. I know they're lying. They're lying straight face to me. And they're taking my money for these lies. And then you feel a little different about it, right? And you can brush that off to saying, that's just the way the world works. That's just the way it is. Deal with it. Where you can go, well, this is wrong, right? And you can take it upon yourself to have a moral issue with the way things are being done. And then you're in a different position then, right? You're almost in a confrontational situation where you're at war, right? The Alex Jones, they're turning the frogs gay, the idea is that they're literally trying to attack you all the time. And one of the things that came up, we were talking before we launched the show, was this George Soros, right? Who is this character, George Soros? How long has he been doing what he does? And why do we, as conspiracy theorists, associate his name with not so good things? On the other hand, he's in the White House getting what? The Medal of Freedom?
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on George Soros? Is this a character of legend? What do we know about him? I mean, his name, if you pulled up George Soros, you'd find tens of thousands of different articles written over the last 20 years about this guy.
Yeah.
This guy is like Santa Claus, like a very popular name to be thrown around at a lot of different events. So what are your thoughts on George Soros?
Jeff, you want to go first, man?
Well, so I probably know about as much about George Soros as the next motherfucker, to be completely honest with you. Now, I've heard a lot of really shitty things about George Soros. Now, I'm the first one to question all the narratives, so, I don't really buy into the George. I joke about it a lot, right? Like, it's like the thanks Obama thing, right? Like, everybody does that when you're walking around and the milk's fucking $27. You're like, thanks, Obama. so I do like the Soros thing because it's kind of like laughing at both sides of the issue. However, I do think that there is something to the moving of the money to like fuck around with like countries and like these refugees and fucking around with that kind of stuff, like global turmoil thing. But again, I don't really know much. I've only heard these types of things, so I'm open.
I think on the surface, George Soros is a douchebag. That's my surface answer, right? He controls the world's narrative. It seems he owns every media outlet that you can think of. CNN probably being the biggest one. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if he's actually the guy. I think he might just be a figurehead. There we go. So that's got to give me some conspiracy points, right? I'm looking behind the guy, right? Everyone believes that the president is the actual president of the United States, right? He's the guy that does all the things, and he makes all the decisions and changes all the other things and makes other decisions. But really, like once you start learning about this stuff, like Themor was talking about, and you start seeing things for what they are, you start realizing that the president really doesn't do shit, right? They're a controller, right? They're a controller for your favorite gaming console, if you will. Somebody is putting the inputs into the controller, and they're getting the outputs on their screen, and they're getting exactly what they want. A lot of people think that controller is George Soros. I don't think it is. I think George Soros is just another, video game controller. I don't think he's really the guy. I mean, look at him. I'm not trying to talk shit about old people, but I know that the guy's uber rich, but I just don't see how he's got that much power to do what he does. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to digest is the amount of narratives that have been put out with his name.
Yeah,
right? It's really like you're saying. He controls the media. The media, he's frontline center as far as his name in the media. They use it all the time. He's like 93, 94 years old right now. So let's be real about his capacity at this point in his life, right? But we know that he has a history of being a financial success, right? Made a lot of money. It's not very clear how he did that. Was it really, like a Warren Buffett story kind of thing? It's not as well documented, so to speak, on how George Soros made all his money. But we know he's super wealthy, like you're saying. He gets identified most within conspiracy circles of crisis actors. If you say crisis actors, you're saying, oh, that's a Soros-funded program, right? That's like what everybody will like commonly say, because that's what mainstream narrative is, right? Like, it's out there so much that most people have this feeling about George Soros of negativity, but they're not sure, like, they can't tell you what he did. Like, he's a bad dude, but what did he do? You have any proof that he's paying people to lie? Like, I mean, that's a bold claim that even mainstream media is spinning. So you recognize that, like, there's a whole lot of different stories about this guy, and they're creating a boogeyman, someone to hate, right? It's not the CIA. It's not Central Intelligence. It's George Soros, a banker that has his own agenda, manipulating the politics and politicians and funding fake events to support one political agenda or another, like Black Lives Matter. George Soros's name will be attached, right? These social economic kind of movements, the Wall Street one that seemed very suspicious, right? Occupy Wall Street seemed a very suspicious kind of narrative, as well as involvement by the community. Like, what do you mean Occupy Wall Street? This doesn't even make any sense. How are you going to occupy Wall Street? What are you talking about here? What are we going to do? Soros, right? That must have been a Soros thing. LGBTQ, that must be a Soros thing, right? Sponsoring these social narrative movements of division anytime we're trying to look at dividing people. he would be a name associated with doing this. So we have someone to blame, that it's not a bigger agenda. It's an individual, right? Like, it's a way to contain the responsibility for a massive program, right? I mean, they're basically saying that he's a next level MK Ultra operative, right? Like, this guy is out there to fuck with your mind, and he's putting his money actively towards doing it. How is he making money towards doing that? Right?
Yeah, well, if you ask me, my opinion would be that it would be something like same thing with Epstein, where you have the figurehead, Epstein, Soros, and the money is actually intelligence money that's being funneled through, and they are just like either a honeypot or a psyop, or like, if there is, because the thing is, I'm sure somebody has done the tracking of the money, right? To be like, oh, look, this money did come from Soros or Soros's foundations and into these like programs on some level, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's like in on this big agenda to do that, right? Because he's got a lot of money and it's moving in a lot of places. But somebody's done that and they've at least connected a few of those dots. So then I'm questioning, like, okay, is this like CIA feeding money through him to cause this shit to happen so that the blame doesn't fall on CIA?
I don't know.
That would make sense, right? I mean, it's logical to assume that there is no personal benefit for this individual to be involved in all these different narratives, right? Like, why is he making money? How is he making anything money off of crisis actors?
They always tell you there's a catch, a compromise, an asterisk. Terms apply. See store for details. May be less than advertised. May vary by mood. Probably. Sprite Zero Sugar? It's different. It's the lemon lime flavored refreshment you want with zero sugar. So, no fast voice? No caveats. Just refreshment. This is Sprite Zero Sugar. Obey your thirst.
Año Nuevo. Los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
This episode is brought to you by Stouffer's. Here comes 3-time juggling champion Natalia Rogers. She's juggling law school, her TA job. Oh, narrowly catches the laundry. What's that 4th ball? Parents unexpectedly showed up at dinner time? Is that too much for Natalia? Not with Stouffer's Chicken Alfredo and its mouth-watering mix of Asiago, Romano, and Parmesan. When you're juggling 4 things at once and the clock strikes dinner, think Stouffer's.
Like, how?
The only way that I can think of is through advertisements on his networks, right? Because the guy owns a lot of networks, from what I understand. I'm trying to find it. Trying to find a list of all the networks that he owns. I just can't find it. Google's failing me today.
Just pull up George Soros wiki page. It'll give you everything.
Oh, I probably should, huh? That makes sense. If you go by, I don't know, man, investments, I have no idea, because he's not making enough money to do what he does off of advertisements on CNN, right? And there has to be some kind of real push behind the reason why he's drawing up the narratives that he does, right? The narratives of the world are all controlled by the news networks for the most part, right? Somebody is writing up their scripts and making them say things, or having them say things, paying them to say these things, which it seems like the world's becoming more and more aware of it, but we know isn't necessarily true. In fact, we know a good portion of what comes out of the figureheads' mouths, or the talking heads on most mainstream news networks, is complete bullshit. But somebody's making them say that. And by making them say that, you can see that there is a absolutely shit ton of people that will eat every single word out of these people's hands. And I don't know if the money's coming from, multiple different parties that are trying to push agendas. And he's just like, hey, give me an agenda to push, and it'll go to the highest bidder.
Right. It's like he's a money manager, but like his whatever, his portfolio, I guess, that he's managing is chaos.
Right. And he's like, hey, George Bush, you want to go to war with Afghanistan and Middle East, bro? He goes,
That could be. I'm with that. I mean, that could be. But the more, what are you thinking? Because I know you're like leading us down some path here. So I'm curious. Like I know I'm intrigued here.
Yeah, I think we can try to understand it, but we'll never know, right? This is a person that's been made to be in the public profile. So what you're going to find is nothing but contradictions, nothing but innuendo and assumptions. You're not going to find any concrete evidence of anything, only conjecture. And I think that's the key here. And that's what I think is the transition to Epstein is actually kind of smooth, because I feel it's a case of the same situation. Like, understand, Epstein, what do we know? Well, we've been given a whole bunch of narratives, but no proof, right? If they actually caught them doing this stuff, there would be people in the mass in jail, from the transportation to accommodations to eyewitnesses to, like, people would be getting rounded up like big time if they had any evidence whatsoever. But we're given a narrative that all this stuff happened, that he ended up in a jail cell and then he hung himself. And it's a lot to buy, right? Like, for how little you're given. But it's so believable because, yeah, of course, the evil, corrupt powers that be are sick, worshiping monsters, right? Constantly the narrative when it comes to these people. So any story that reinforces it, you have to seriously question it. And I think Epstein's one that a lot of so-called conspiracy theorists, oh yeah, Epstein, of course, like Podesta, these people are disgusting, like we can go through the laundry list of people that were sort of incriminated in that situation, but none of them got charges.
Yeah, Ghislaine is sitting in prison for procuring underage children to nobody.
Apparently. Yeah, but what kind of prison is she sitting in? It's probably cush as fuck.
I think this is going to be to the Moore's point. Is she actually sitting in prison? Because there's no proof of that. Like, we didn't even see her in the court hearing, right? Because it was all just, they didn't allow cameras in there. It was just artists drawing shit. And if you ask me, some of the drawings didn't even look like her, right? So it's like, I think that's probably kind of what the Moore's getting at here, is like, none of this even fucking happened.
I think we can all agree, and I think this would probably go for, I would assume, hope, or at least hope that this would go for basically everybody in this fucking world, is that it is absolutely incredible the amount of protection that these people have. Because the Epstein thing, the Diddy thing, the Pizzagate thing, I mean, if anybody in else that wasn't a celebrity or a politician did any of this shit, they would have been locked away a long ass time ago. But like, how long has the Diddy thing been out now? That came out, what, a year ago now? 6 months, 8 months, something like that? Why do we not have the list of everybody that's been to these fucking parties, and why are they not put away? We know it was full of fucking celebrities. We know that it was full of some really big fucking names. What?
We don't know that.
Oh yeah, we do. Fuck that. Yeah, we do. Stop.
Well,
come on.
I think that it is an important distinction of what we do know in the Diddy thing. I am once again of the Epstein cloth, that these narratives are being spun so ridiculously often. We know that they're proven sellers. People buy them because it's believable narrative, especially sexually explicit content. Like, this is up everybody's alley. Everybody's a buyer of this.
And they're
selling it in 6 ways from Sunday, man. Podcasts, mainstream, you name it.
Yeah, it's the rich, man. And this is something that Old Scary World was talking to me about last night. It made sense to me. It's like, you see it with the fires, right? It's like there's this, and you saw it with the Luigi Mangione thing. It's like there's this sentiment out there, eat the rich, right? And it's like, I think there's an element of that to this type of thing too, right? When we talk about the Diddy situation. I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm just saying, there's got to be at least some level of feeding the eat the rich narrative with all of that.
Yeah. So the P. Diddy thing, is it Sean Combs? Is it Puff Daddy, or is it P. Diddy?
It's all
or
of
is
the
it none
above.
of the, or is it none of the above? Like,
Mm.
so
Is his name
once
Chris?
again, if you're recording artists, the labels have proven time again that they own you and your likeness and your image
Mm-hmm.
and the music, right? So a lot of these people, was Tupac really, was that really his name? No.
No.
Right.
No,
So
it
a
was a
lot of these
stage name for
characters
sure.
are created. A lot of these characters are created. They have a story arc, and they go out with a bang, right? The Puff Daddy, more people know his name now than they ever have. Like, that's just the bottom line. And people are going to be playing his music forever, even if it's just to look for clues of whether he did something nefarious or if it plays into this, idea that's being spun of this character, right? And it's very easy to vanish if people don't know your real name, right? They don't call you that.
Yeah, that's
So
true. So do
I don't
you
think I
put
don't think
any?
it's as easy being famous as people.
Sure. Do you think, or do you put any stock behind like I don't know how you explain this stuff, but like there's the idea in the conspiracy world of like, hey, like when Kobe died, like, hey, there was like the Black Mamba thing going around. It was like, hey, look at the day that he died. And like, there's like numerology involved and gematria involved. And like, this was a symbol, like a symbolic event. So like maybe he is alive or isn't. Like, do you put any weight behind like the symbology of these events? Like, hey, P Diddy, the whole thing broke about P Diddy on like this day. There's something there.
You asking me?
I was asking them more because I
So
don't know that I know you don't.
yeah, you ever look into gematria rabbit hole? Has gematria ever been something you looked into?
I have. I mean, again, only in passing on the show, right? Like I've had people come on here and like break stuff down for me, and it's interested me for long enough till the next guest came on, and I was able, you know what I mean? Like, yes and no.
I personally think it's
so
too
we know
easy
that
to draw lines between numbers. I think if you look at something, you make a number out of it, it's too easy to just pick anything in this world to draw a line to. It'd be like 9/11. Well, that's exactly 8 months and 3 days away from my birthday. So that must mean that I have, some kind of connection to this, because 8 and 3 is 11, and 11, 1 plus 1, the two digits, and 11 equals 2. But really, if you look at it as one number,
No, but
it's only one.
there's like equations that are stuck to. It's not random, but I get what you're saying.
I mean,
Holy shit.
I guess I gotta know it a little bit better, but
About to get wrecked, dude. Wait, I want to hear this.
I was just gonna say, holy shit, you're the reincarnation of Lucifer, aren't you? As if these numbers mean something, right? Like, I'm with you guys. Like, let's not make too big a deal out of this. But obviously, they are communicating in numbers, because numbers is a language. And there's very intelligent people that see the world in numbers. That's just how they see the world, right? And we've come across them. They're like math gurus and math geniuses. They apply numbers to everything. And this is just how the world works for them. Other people are artistic. Other people have no common sense, but they might be professional, ping pong player or something. It's like we all have different sets of skill sets, and they try to communicate to all the different profound individuals. Here's a simple language that you'll understand, right? So the mathematics people that are very intelligent, yes, they want to keep them in the loop. They'll put their numerology or the basic numbers within the story, within the information that is being presented, sometimes visually and sometimes in text, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there is numerology being used to communicate very specific message, whether they're taking credit for something or something else. I remember when I came across probably the most prolific code that they use is 19. So code 19, it's mentioned in the Quran, but I think everybody identifies it because these are all the real numbers, 1 through 9, right? So 0 is not a real number. You cannot have nothing. Either there is something or there is nothing. In order to count, you have to have something, right?
Yep.
So you skip 0 and you have 1 through 9. And it basically is your beginning and your end, right? This is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. So this number is represented in nature as the flower of life with 19 circles, right? So you draw 19 circles and you end up with the flower of life. So it's also a numerical thing that points to the grand architect, right? The idea that, okay, what is the 19th? I think it's G. Anyway,
That's
no,
not G.
T. Anyway, the idea, I don't know why that came to my mind. I looked into
S.
it. Something else. S? Okay.
Yeah.
The infinite, the S. So yeah, the code 19, obviously we know Rona 19. We know 19 hijackers on 9/11. Right? Some of these are some of the bigger, more obvious events that we can link 19 with. But the 19 turns into 33 when you turn those 19 into a cube. 33 circles makes the cube, or the squaring of the circle. So when I came across this, I was like, oh, okay. So we're using 19 and 33s as part of understanding nature and reality and imprinting, okay, a higher level of knowledge is being conveyed here. Like, yes, we, the most intelligent people here on earth, are well aware of what this is and what it isn't. And we're communicating that. So as you become more familiar with how these numbers associate with reality, you'll start to see that, okay, they're putting their fingerprint on this information too, to say, okay, you guys, you more intelligent people, don't worry about it. You guys that are believing any of this nonsense, you won't see it. It's, the idea that the truth in plain sight, well, not everybody can see, right? You can show a picture to somebody and you go, yeah, that's proof of flat earth. And somebody else will say, what are you talking about? It's nothing, right? The same picture, right?
That's
So
another
the
thing I'm
idea
going to
that,
ask you about one day.
so the idea that, we have to be aware of the different ways they're communicating in order to identify them. And as you learn more about the sun, the moon, the stars, the cycles of those, the year, I think the sun is on a 32-year cycle or something. That's where your 32s come in. Your 28 days on the lunar cycle is a 13-month cycle. All these numbers are how we've created our clocks, right? How we've structured time and our reality. So I don't want to belittle numbers, but I do think that people get a little crazy with them too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super fascinated by that kind of stuff. Are you familiar with Micah Dank?
No. What is
We should get Micah on the show.
We can, for sure.
Jake would hate that.
He would fucking rage quit so hard. So Micah talks a lot about astrotheology, right? And how like the sky clock is what I call it, right? For the dummies, the smooth brains out there like me. The sky clock basically is, the zodiacs and the dates and the times and like all of the secret knowledge that was passed on through generations and through religions and all these stories and shit. That was all just ways for them to kind of keep track of the sky clock. And only like the super elite really know and understand the sky clock and the things that happen on certain intervals. And like, they're still doing it today, in my opinion. Right. So when the shit happens, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like I don't know. I just kind of lost my train of thought, but.
Well, yeah, so from the eclipses, knowing exactly when eclipses are going to happen, right? To other phenomena like comets, Halley's Comet, other to meteor showers, Pleiadian meteor showers, other meteor showers. This stuff is happening in a pattern, and the pattern is identified numerically. And yes, they're well aware of these things that are unique to our sky, and the rare ones are celebrated. And yes, these events will correlate with the celebration of these changes, right? One of the major changes, age of Aquarius into the age of whatever, right? So your ages will be celebrated in different ways. Your lunar and solar events will be celebrated in different ways.
Are you a believer in the sky clock at all? Astrotheology?
I don't know how far astrotheology goes. Yeah, this everything in the sky is doing incredible patterns, geometric patterns, perfect circles for all the stars around Polaris in 24 hours, a little bit less, never changing. And, like I was saying, the moon is clock. 28-day cycle, perfect cycle. Sun is a clock, it does the exact same thing all the time. So the precision of the sky and the reliability of the sky is obviously how we've constructed our whole idea of time. It's all based on that, whether it's months, days, years, minutes, seconds, all of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, back in ancient days, they would use that knowledge, just like you said, of a comet that is super rare, whatever it is, to control populations, I would say, right? Like, generals or emperors or whatever, they would send the armies to go wait, over the hill for months because they knew that, a comet was going to come through that only comes once every whatever. And then once that comet came, like they knew, hey, like that would symbol to the enemy that their gods were angry or some shit, right? Like, and it would, you get what I'm saying? Like they would utilize these events or like for human sacrifice events, right? They would wait, not all cultures, some cultures would do this shit all the time, but some cultures would wait till like blood moons or whatever the case was to do these sacrificial rituals because the people who had no idea that these events were about to happen, when it did happen, right after a sacrificial ritual, they'd be like, oh my God, it's real. So I think that the elites are still using it today. But since we know more about time now as a civilized culture, they're doing it in other ways. Like they're just communicating that, hey, we still carry this knowledge by example, taking out Kobe on such and such a day with helicopter number, whatever, right?
See, Kobe knew about all this stuff too. He was definitely well aware. Yeah, Kobe faked his death. There is no helicopter crash in Calabasas. That didn't happen. There's no bodies. There's no helicopter. There's nothing there. Just look at the crash site for sure.
Man, I don't know. I've seen pictures, man. I know pictures can get faked. I know. But I've seen some fucked up shit from that. But back to numbers. I find numbers fascinating, but I definitely don't find them fascinating in the same way that you guys look at them. I look at them from, a scientific point of view, and I look at things like the 19 circle thing, the flower of life. I've heard of the flower of life. I have no idea that it was a combination of 19 circles. It's very interesting. That is a very predominant pattern in a lot of like geometric studies. I guess that's the best way that I can explain that. But one of my absolute favorite things in the world is the golden ratio, right? Some people know it as the golden spiral, and it is 1.618. And if you ever seen like a conch shell or anything that makes a spiral in nature, they all follow this. It's incredible how they all follow the same spiral pattern with the same degree of bend or change. I'll bring it up for anybody who doesn't know what the golden ratio is.
This is a flower of life right here.
Yeah, it is. That was pretty interesting.
Focus?
But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I personally don't believe that the puppet masters of this world are following anything to do with numbers. I know that there's this, the big theory about, like satanic cults and how they need to tell you before they do it, or they need to tell you what they're doing because that's part of their belief systems, and that they follow, specific dates. Everything's symbolized down to dates, times, the amount of people that are doing something, the amount of countries that signed this treaty or whatever, right? I don't personally see that as important. I think that if you look at something like the golden ratio, which I'll bring up here in a minute, and I'm not a religious person, but I look at things like the golden ratio and how well numbers and math works out, especially, as we unravel the script of nature, if you will. I find those numbers extremely interesting. And if they were, let's say if the bad people were working off of numbers on the same line as nature, I think it would make more sense. But from everything that I've heard, it just doesn't seem to line up, except for what you said there with the moon phases. I thought that was pretty interesting. And
I'm sorry. Can you just repeat what you said you thought about the flower of life? What did you think it was? You said something. You were like, I didn't think it.
I don't
know. I feel like I lost something there, but go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Damn it. Now I don't know where I was.
My bad, bro. I'm sorry, man. I lost track of what you were saying, and I was trying to catch up.
Me too. That's what I wanted to talk about, the moon phases. While you guys were talking and you had brought up the number 19, I had to look into the number 19. Just, whenever somebody brings anything up that sounds interesting, like when you say, hey, there's a thing with the number 19, the 19, right? And then you brought up the 19 circles and the flower of life, and I was like, oh wow, I've seen that before. That's a geometric pattern that I'm familiar with. It's very cool. Let me look into this 19 thing. And then you said something about the moon phase is taking 28 days, right? 19 days one way, 19 days the other way. And I thought that was very interesting. So I specifically looked up to get information, or to basically fact check, right, and see if that was true. And I came across another interesting moon fact with the number 19. According to the factsite.com, it takes approximately 19 years for the lunar phases of the moon to appear again on the same day of the year. For example, the moon was full on August 15th in both the years 2000 and 2019. That's interesting. See, that's where numbers line up with nature, and I think that's very cool.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection and a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
There you go. Another 19. So can you hear me okay? I'm not lighting up very well. Am I lagging?
I think you're hearing me lag a little bit.
Up?
No, we can hear you fine.
Okay, I'm not hearing. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that I'm good to talk. So yeah, definitely with the numbers and nature is the path we need to take to understand how they're using these numbers to communicate their belief system or their association of knowledge, right? This is what sacred geometry is really all about. We talk about the 19 circles and the flower of life. What you'll find is, Jeff, your little pendant thing there was a great example. One of the most predominant forms in nature and the strongest geometric form is the hexagon. And what the 19 circles ends up showing you is a hexagon, right? So this hexagon shape is found all over nature. Honeycomb, right? Basalt formations, turtles' backs, flies' eyes, perfect geometric shape, right? So the idea that, okay, this flower of life is giving you information about reality, right? And with the Fibonacci sequence, where the golden ratio is another very significant one, right? So we see the spiral of life, or the idea of the Fibonacci sequence, showing itself all over nature, like you're saying, with flowers, plant life, animals. It's represented in the human body as well. You want to look into the number of vertebrae in your spine. This is also a correlation to numerology, numbers, and what you'll find. But the Fibonacci sequence is interesting because this is where I was going with the letter G. The letter G, or God, or the big G, is a letter that is telling you this is the Fibonacci sequence. If you draw a G, you're drawing the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral of life. And where do you find this G predominant? The Freemasons, right? What are they giving you? The tools, the square and the compass to draw circles and straight lines, squaring the circle. What's at the middle of this? The fingerprint of God himself, the creator. the Fibonacci sequence, right? That's right at the center. So understanding the symbolism behind what they're showing you. A lot of people look at that and go, oh, yeah, whatever. They're architects or something. They're just tradesmen. But if you understand how their tools are used to identify real things in nature, replicate them, recreate them, you understand, well, they're giving you knowledge right there. They're showing you, here's the Fibonacci sequence, here's the square and the compass, your vectors, your measurements, and how you identify that this place is created. I think that underlying, we all know that this place probably has some sort of purpose. We're not all buying into the big bang of nothingness to something, to random, single cells turning into us, right? We are the most intelligent life form on this place, this creation, and we're able to figure these things out. We're able to observe, measure, and test and prove things. Like, this cannot be by chance that a fly's eyes have perfect hexagons. It's not by chance, right? It's not by chance that all of our senses work in harmony. We can't identify how they work, right? But we know they do. We can observe, measure, and test to prove that they are real, that our eyes work the way they work, our hearing works the way sound works the way it works, light works the way it works. And then when you recognize, oh, okay, so some of these symbols tell you more than what mainstream tells you. Like, mainstream is lying to you about all this shit. And you're like, oh, wait, but if I look into what they're telling me, then it's a completely different story, right? Like, what is light? Is light a wave or a particle? This duality of light. They can't even tell you what light is, but they say that light has a speed. Well, how does light have a speed if you can't tell me what it is? Right? They tell you, okay, a virus is real. Well, if you can't isolate a virus and you can't show it to me, then how is it real? We have to be able to use the tools we're given to observe, measure, and test reality. And a lot of that is communicated through math. It's like, okay, here's mathematical interpretation. And that means that we're able to count it. And if we're able to count it, that means it exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a language of saying, we know some shit. And they encode it with, hey, we know some shit. 666. You think that has anything to do with the devil? Or does it have to do with knowing some shit? Right?
And what's interesting to me is that things like the flower of life, that if you believe the narrative, it was found in, I think the oldest one was found in Egypt, in one of the ancient temples, 6,000 years old, according to their dating, right? I would say that's probably more like 30,000 or something, or 300,000, but they say at least 6,000 years ago. What the fuck did they know?
I just bought 3 books on sacred geometry. Thank you. Because it's something that I haven't looked into, and it's a new subject to me. And of course, I had to do that.
Well, this is going to turn him, man. Because you know what, man? I'm not going to lie to you, dude. This is one of the things that actually got me, like kind of broke me out of the matrix, is the best way to put it, was getting into like sacred geometry and like that kind of thing.
I like the way that he's approaching this stuff, right? You get a lot of people who come on, or people that I've talked to in the past, that will put something in front of you and say, I'm not trying to use this against you the more. I'm just using this as an example. But like, they'll come on and be like, 9/11 was a hologram, right? And I'll be like, okay, cool. How do you know that? And they'll be like, well, just because look, that's a hologram. And it's like, man, that doesn't do it for me. But when you break it down into its smallest bits, right, and you start to build it up, this is going back to what Themor was saying very, very early in the episode when he was talking about the poster up here. Like, you want to believe, break it down into the smallest things, and that's how my mind works, right? So when you start talking about things such as sacred geometry, when you're talking about how the shapes of a fly's eye, and then you start thinking about a whole bunch of other things too, right? The flower of life just happens to be a hexagon. What else happens to be a hexagon that we see in nature, right? What about the poles of Saturn or poles of Mars, right? We've talked about this a couple times here on this podcast before. And Jeff, can you bring up a picture of that?
Of what?
the poles of, I can't remember if it was Mars or if it was Saturn. I think it was Saturn, right? The poles of Saturn, the clouds or whatever they are, they make this perfect hexagon. It's incredibly interesting how they do it, or how it's like that. And I know we've talked about multiple times how, look at that thing. Look at it. That's fucking incredible.
Disclaimer, these are artist renditions.
They are.
This is paint by numbers. This is not real pictures of space.
Correct. But, right, they do the paint by numbers thing. That's exactly what I was just about to get into, is that, we've talked about this multiple times here on the show about how, space is fake and it's not necessarily something that I believe, but I do know that NASA takes information that they're not actually feeding you pictures, right? They're feeding you information, right? And they're
fake and gay.
They're doing the paint by numbers thing, and they're putting it out as official pictures, but it's really not, right? And we've talked about the Van Allen.
But back to the hexagon. Let's not go down the.
Listen, man. Yes. And so, like I like talking to Jake sometimes. I mean, I like talking to Jake all the time, and he's been trying to get me to read the Bible and stuff, and one day I do want to read it, right? It's part of my curiosity. I am curious of what it says and how I'll interpret it, but it's when you show me things like this, where there's mathematics or these equations in nature that create these shapes, and what's one of the one rules of nature, one laws of, well, not, I wouldn't say a law, but the thing that you hear from when you're a kid, right? There's no straight lines in nature, but yet you see, like Themor was talking about, the eyes of fly, right? Well, there is straight lines of nature. There's your example. I feel like that is a better piece of evidence for a creator than someone telling me there's a creator, or somebody telling me like, hey, you should believe this conspiracy theory because there's this whole ocean of people that also believe it, right? I mean, I don't think I explained that very well.
I think very eloquent on how your position and what you're looking for in your journey, right? All of us are looking for different things in our journey. And when we come across proof or a mind melting, like hits you in the face, like, well, isn't that obvious? It changes the foundation in which you stand, the ideas that you build off of, right? You're like, okay, so if this is true about water, or this is true about light, therefore I can apply it to everything I know about water and light, right? Mm-hmm. And it changes fundamentally how you see the nature of your reality and what it is and how it works. So definitely looking into the geometry, so the hexagon is an awesome one because it really is everywhere. And I think it's so fundamental that the actual fabric of reality is built off of it, this formation, it's the so-called ether. So they say that the bees can start at any 3 points and make perfect hexagons. Now, if you've ever tried to build anything using 3 different reference points, this is nearly impossible to map out and project exactly where it's going to be without using tools to sort of mark where to start, right, in 3-dimensional space. So they still can't figure out how they do it. Another thing they can't figure out with bees is how they actually fly in a straight line back to the hive. They track these bees no matter where they go. As soon as they're done, they make a bee line to the hive. That's where we get that terminology beeline from. They take a perfectly straight line. The Quran actually comments on this, and they say the bees take God's roads. So we have what's called an electrical nature. I don't want to call it an electric universe. That terminology sort of goes too far. But the electric grid on Earth is well known. We know that the higher you go, the atmosphere becomes more and more charged. So the increase in voltage and ampage, the higher we go. We measure it directly, right? And the ground is actually a ground or a negative. So you have everything above Earth is positive, everything below it is a negative. This is the electrical nature of reality. But how does that grid actually exist? I think it's through hexagons, because some of the most fundamental things, like you see with the salt flats,
Mm-hmm.
we know the Bolivian salt flats are something like 4,000 square miles of flat land. Some of the most amazing photography you've ever seen in your life has been taken in the Bolivian salt flats. And what you'll notice is when it dries up, the salt is forming perfect hexagons on the ground. The rocks, the salt formations, are forming perfect hexagon in rock. Like I was talking about with turtles' backs, it's also there. So what is a pentagram? What is at the center of a pentagram? The center of a pentagram or a star is a perfect hexagon, right? So I think that what the NASA was sort of alluding to is, I believe it's Saturn who actually, over the course of its journey throughout the sky throughout the year, like the sun analemma, I think it's called, makes an infinity symbol. Have you seen that? The path of the sun over a year's time, and you mark it every day at the same time, and it ends up creating an infinity symbol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that with Saturn, I believe it creates a pentagon shape. So that,
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
the tracing of that, the movement of it ends up forming a hexagon at its core.
You guys know about
Yeah, patterns developed by sound waves.
right? Jeremy, you're familiar with this?
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times. I think this is very interesting too.
So the thing that's interesting to me, just to kind of, I want to just bridge it back to like the ancient, like our ancestors, right? Because I think there's something really important about like what they knew that it seems like we don't now, right? Well, some of us do, but not generally speaking. You know, if Jake was here, you know, he would verify this, but like in the Bible, it says, and I don't know the exact quote, but, you know, God spoke, right? And he spoke the universe or life or whatever the words are, creation into existence, right? So in my opinion, that would be a version of a vibration, like a sound vibration, right? And then when you think about I Googled this just as well. What does the Om mean in Hinduism, right? And that's the symbol that you see. Well, I don't have my screen shared, but it's this other symbol on this other pendant I have. It's the classic Om symbol everybody knows about. That is the sacred sound of the universe, right? It's a vibrational sound of the universe. And then when you look at like the hexagon on top of Saturn, right? And you look at cymatics here. Let me just share this real quick, because when I flip between the two, it just makes sense. It clicks. I'm probably gonna, like, you see the hexagon, right? And then if I switch, oh, it doesn't let you switch immediately. That's so lame.
Yeah.
And then cymatics right here, boom, it's the same thing, right?
It's a lot of what you see when you look at the stars, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. When people are like zooming in on stars with telescopes or whatever, cameras and shit like that, you're getting like that weird plasma thing that everybody talks about. It's a cymatic vibration. And when you look into what a hologram is, this is where like you get into holographic universe stuff. When you look at like just how we make holograms, it's just light and sound, right? And they focus the light beam in the sound, and like I'm not smart enough to know exactly how it's done, but that's pretty much all it is. And that's what the ancient people, our ancestors, believed, that the universe was created through sound, right? And then light, right? Let there be light. Like light and sound were the two functions that created all things in this universe. So that's kind of like what I've been believing for the last 10 years of my life, I guess.
I resonate with that. I definitely feel once you look into light, you get into a couple interesting phenomena, right? Is light a wave or a particle? Is it physical or non-physical? So can we measure it? Does it have a size, a shape? Or is it non-physical? Does it exist as a frequency, a wave, right? So, you know, when you say sound, I think frequencies.
So the light thing, that's a long time ago. There was an experiment called the double slit experiment. We talked about it here on the show a couple times when we covered the simulation theory, and we talked with Grayson on the first one, and then we talked with Rizwan Verk on the second one. The double slit experiment basically was I'm gonna fudge up the times and everything because I don't have it in front of me, but it was from a very long a while ago. Basically, it was a way of proving the existence of superposition. Themor, are you familiar with superposition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, for people that are listening that aren't familiar with superposition, it is a quantum term, and it basically says that at the quantum level, and because you were talking about light, whether or not it's an energy or matter, at the quantum level, things exist in multiple forms at one time. And this is where you get the Schrodinger cat example, right? You put a cat in a box with a vial of poison, you leave the room, come back. Is the cat dead or alive? Did the cat knock over the bottle? Did the bottle break? Did it poison the cat? Is the cat dead? Until you open the box and you look inside the box and you observe whether or not the cat is alive or dead, that cat lives in a position of superposition, or it lives in superposition. It is both dead and alive until observed differently. This is kind of where I'm going with. I'm pushing back against you a little bit here. Because light, apparently, due to quantum physics, or what smart people say, right? Light lives in superposition, right? It is both a physical. It's made of matter and it's made of energy, but it's not until it's observed that it chooses one of those paths. And if you look at the double slit experiment, this is how they proved this. I should just bring up a picture of it because I'll probably be able to explain it better that way.
But see, this doesn't refute anything really. It's
no. I know.
Fits perfectly with the idea. I mean, like, if I talked about this before, where like it's funny that they just now discovered what the photon looks like, right? And it happens to look exactly like your eyeball. It looks like the thing that is used to observe the thing, right? Without one, you can't have the other. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's literally like this paradox that seems to have occurred where they discovered what the fucking photon looks like. It looked like an eyeball. So like, to me, when I say that like sound and light is what created the universe, light may just be the consciousness. Light might be the observing, right? So us observing is the light, and the sound is just that superposition, the all possibilities in a wave, right? So that's a philosophical take on it, I guess. But
basically, the experiment is best proven through this picture right here. Okay, now for people that are watching this, this is a laser pointer, basically, right? And you have a sheet of whatever material, we'll call it paper, and there's two slits in it. Now, if light was an energy, which is what we believed it to be for a very long time, if you shine the light through these slits, you should only get two pictures on the next sheet, right? Because there's no physical anything to it. There's no matter to it. So there is no bouncing, there is no reflecting, there's no nothing. But in fact, when you shoot a laser, which is all it is condensed light, right? It's a nicely, tightly bundled beam of light shined at these slits, you do get some reflecting and bouncing that happens. And that's how you get the multiple bars over on the back sheet. So this is how they proved that light is actually both an energy and matter. I know I just wanted to get that out. I wanted to explain that to people. Themor, I know I kind of went down a different path than you there, and I apologize for that. But I just wanted to get that out.
No, I think that the question was, what is light? And understanding what light is a big clue, right? So I'm going to agree with almost everything what you said, maybe except for your conclusion on this is how we know what it is. And it's both. So I'm not going to say that it's both. I think we have an understanding of light in a frequency capacity. This is how on the spectrum of frequencies. We can identify which ones are the light, from infrared to near infrared to green spectrum, blue every spectrum of color has its own frequency. And this is how we create LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
We use frequency to manifest light, to create light. Now, the LEDs are not emitting anything physical whatsoever. There's nothing coming out of them except for a frequency. And a frequency is considered non-physical, right? So the double slit gives us two patterns. One pattern is of a non-physical and one pattern is of physical, right? Is light a wave or a particle? Now, that's the question we're trying to answer, because we do the same thing and we get two different patterns. So I wouldn't say that the laser is emitting anything physical whatsoever. It shows you that it can be one or the other based on observation, is what the double slit says. The double slit says that it can come out of the laser as a photon or a wave, a physical or a non-physical thing, based on how you observe it or when you observe it.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
There's something we're all afraid of.
Something that's all around us, but we avoid at all costs.
But when we start to understand it, we learn some fundamental things about being human.
What we fear, but also what we love, and what we're capable of when we work together.
We're talking about cancer.
Interested in science, medicine, wellness, or just what it means to be a person? Listen to Smarter Than Cancer, brought to you by Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center.
New episodes every other Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Right?
Yep.
So they took this thing a little bit further, but before we go there, the ramifications of that are just fucking mind-blowing. Do you understand how to apply that to anything you see in the sky?
Yeah.
Does that mean that everything in the sky could exist in a non-physical form until I observe it?
Well, that's basically the gist of superposition, right? And superposition is a term for the quantum level of things, right? And that's basically there's these theories that are out there that if anything happens in the quantum realm, it could also happen in the micro and macro as well. We just don't know how to yet. Or this could be one of those things which would align with more or less what you guys think about, certain things such as holograms and stuff. The manipulation of superposition could create something along the lines of a Project Bluebeam kind of scenario. That would be interesting to look and see what the implications are. One superposition.
Yeah, definitely.
On the macro level.
The quantum ideas, the ideas sold to people, the public, as quantum, the quantum realm.
Uh-huh.
That terminology becomes really confusing because we're trying to figure out, well, why do you say that? I mean, you can come up with a term that it does magic things, and that's basically what a lot of the quantum terms do, like superposition. That's magic. I mean, basically what that means is that it exists everywhere at the same time. It's like, well, but it doesn't. Like, nothing exists everywhere at the same time. If it did, then we wouldn't exist, right? Like, it would fill space. You can't have that thing existing everywhere at once because I'm here. And I wouldn't be here if that thing was filling that space.
But superposition is also one of the best arguments for the multi-universe theory or the multiple universe theory, where, every decision that we make splits off into dual existences, right? where, to answer what you said, if we can live in a state of superposition, we would both be here and not be here, which
is a mind.
It is a mind fuck.
We have no reference frame to understand what that's an idea, and I love philosophy, right? It's a thought experiment. It's like, okay, what came before God? How did he get here?
Yeah.
There's infinite reduction situations, like you just come across paradoxes and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to dismiss any of this terminology. I'm just trying to say that it's very foreign to us, and we need to think of analogies to be able to describe it in reality, or even better, show it the actual phenomena that exists where this terminology came from. So the quantum realm really starts with the double slit experiment. They get into trying to figure out how is this possible? How is it possible that our observation can manifest reality, can turn something from a non-physical state into a physical state and actually manifest light? Like, this is magic. So what the quantum realm did is they said, okay, let's take this one step further and let's find out if it's the actual observer that's collapsing the wave function and creating the mass or the matter, the existence of a physical thing, or is it something else? So they came up with this experiment called the delayed choice quantum eraser. I'll explain the terminology first, just so it simplifies. They're giving the light a choice, a delayed choice, meaning at different intervals of time, they're going to be recording this light, right? So there's a choice and it's delayed. So multiple options, delayed. Quantum means to count. Don't make it any more complicated than that. Either you can count it or you can't, right? Zero does not exist, right? So if you're not counting anything, it doesn't exist. So we're counting. And then eraser, we can no longer count. It's saying a paradox, okay? I'm on one hand, I'm counting, and now I can no longer count. So another paradox arises. So this paradox is explained by a demonstration. It's not really an experiment because we're not manipulating the variables, right? In an actual experiment, you got to manipulate independent and dependent variables to understand the cause and effect relationship. We're not even able to go that far. All we can do is demonstrate or observe, measure, and test. And this is square one of the scientific method. I'm not going to discount it. But in an actual experiment, you have to actually manipulate the variables in order to determine the cause. And we can't do that. We can only observe the effect. So we're not even trying to figure out what this is doing. We're just trying to understand what the effect is and how that works. And what two other terms come out of this demonstration that are also in line with your superpositioning, and they call it quantum entanglement. So the idea that, okay, your superposition could be a real thing if something way over there knows what something way over here is doing without a physical connection between them or a physical way for them to communicate this information, right? How do they know at the same time, right? So that they're entangled, meaning whatever one does, the other one knows that it did it, and vice versa. And instantaneous action at a distance, right? This is another idea that fits in line with superpositioning, the idea that everything is everywhere. So instantaneous action at a distance is pretty straightforward. It's meaning, how much time is it actually taking for something to be communicated from point A to point B? And can we measure it? And what quantum eraser says is, no, you can't measure it, how fast it's going, because it breaks down time barriers, right? We're seeing something happen in this demonstration that goes back in time, or something that knows prior to something accomplishing its doing. So how does we measure at one station prior and other stations later? The first station that gets measured says this result, and the only way it knew that result is by the completion of the entangled photon going where it was going.
So is this really like come down to like, okay, because I'm a smooth brain, right? So
no, you're not. Stop.
I am. Is this just like, because to me, I'm just thinking like fate or no fate, right? Is fate a thing? Is this one pre-designed universe with time's not linear, but like a timeline, I guess, and the things that happen? Or is it like multiverse and we're like peering and merging and, infinite universes thing? Is that what we're saying here? It's like, it's going to be one or the other. Is that what this experiment is kind of designed for?
I think it more points out to the nature of our reality and how physical things can exist in non-physical forms until we experience them. So I'll give you a great example of how this information applies directly to a solution that I have a hard time with. So I know the earth is flat. Without question, it observes, measures, and tests to be level. But it works like a cylinder. It works like a ball east to west. If you go in a straight line, you're going to end up in the same place. And this is a paradox, a paradigm. This cannot happen. Einstein provides one solution. He says it's the bending of warping of space and time, not the physical reality that's bending and warping. Okay, I'm cool with that. But we're also talking about
general relativity.
We're also talking about the idea of manifestation. We live in a world that is full of information, and the delayed choice quantum eraser demonstrates that it's the information that collapses the wave function and not the observation. They remove the observer from the equation. So this information exists in a way that we cannot observe, measure, or test, but we know it's there because we observe the effects of it. We can't locate it. We don't know where the sun, the moon, and the stars actually exist in reality, but we observe the effect of the moon, the sun, and the stars in our reality, right? The frequencies that are generated, we don't know where they come from or how they exist, but they're omnipresent, right? Like the idea of, you know how a radio in your car works?
Mm-hmm.
So these invisible frequencies are carrying this information to your car. Well, those frequencies on that dial exist in nature. We didn't make them. We're not broadcasting them. We didn't create them. They exist in nature, 91.5, 92.8. All these exist within nature. All we do is piggyback them. We don't know where they come from. We piggyback those signals, those frequencies that exist. We boost them, give them more energy, and release them on their, back and load it up with our information. And our antenna brings it to our radio, and we interpret the signal. So all these frequencies exist everywhere all the time. Our Wi-Fi is broadcasting. We don't see it. We don't feel it. We don't experience it. We know that these phenomena are affecting things, but we don't manifest the reality, or the knowledge manifests the reality. So where's this information being stored? And back to your other question with multiple dimensions and multiple realities, I think if we can prove that this place is created, it's of purpose, of reason, has mathematical precision, then you can create as many as you want. What's the limit? So do I think this place is special? Hell yeah. It's magnificent. It's beautiful. It's spectacular. It's amazing. But who knows? Maybe there are these alien places that people dream of, that people just can't, that's their reality. They live in that world. Maybe that's coming from a real place. I can't dismiss that because I don't know what's outside this realm, this place.
I like that. That was very good. Very good.
You guys hear of the Akashic Records? You ever hear those?
Yep. Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a new idea that this information is somewhere, and we can tap into it, that we're kind of receivers. We don't even know how our memories are imprinted on our brains. We can do this on a disc, right? With ones and zeros.
Fuck, we're about to go down a whole hole right now.
We don't know where we go when we dream. We dream. Consciousness experiments are very fascinating, and understanding just who we are is really a journey that I think the lies are kind of like one part of it, but the truth is like, wow, this place really is magic. It really is supernatural. It really is magnificent, and they kind of hide it with all this infighting and bickering and fear. The asteroids are going to blow up Earth. The sun's going to explode. The moon's getting too close, too far away. Super volcanoes, nuclear weapons, mass outbreaks of pandemics. Everything is distracting you from how magnificent this place really is. And they're getting people to the point where they're hooked on drugs, trying to escape this reality. And it's like, dude,
fuck,
just appreciate how magnificent it is. I'm cool with drugs, but try mushrooms or something. Just chill out. You don't have to get on that pharma shit. You don't have to be taking fentanyl and fucking methamphetamines and all that. It exists in nature, bro. just go find some good plants and plant some good plants and you'll be good. It's all right, man.
Yeah, it's interesting that they, it's called a flow state for a reason, right? When you get in a flow state in whatever you're doing, and it's because you're riding those frequencies, man, and like the information comes to you from what some people call the Akashic records, right? Like when I'm writing music, when I'm playing guitar, man, and like if I'm sitting there for an hour and that's all I'm thinking about, I'm not thinking about bills, I'm not thinking about anything else in the world, man, in the universe, except that thing, and the information just comes to me and the things get created, and I'm like, I'm blowing my own mind. I'm like, holy shit, this is so sick, right? And it's like, and you can apply that towards anything, and it's just interesting to me that it's called the flow state, and I know that it's called the flow state for that reason, but it's all, there's definitely some connection to a creator of some kind. Now, you can get weird with it and say, are we at base level creation, right? Because then you got people like David Icke who talk about the hacking of reality, the hacking of the information of light. So the information that we're consuming and decoding our reality could be just hacked from a higher being, an alien, right? So that's always interesting to think about too.
Yeah, Adam and Eve, two people started all this. That's a bit of a fairy tale in my mind. But, the creation of this place, so many questions when it comes to how, we're given a lot of stories, and I'm not saying that they're wrong or right. I'm just saying if you can actually prove some things, these questions become even more dynamic, right? You have an actual foundation to like, well, how the hell did he pull off the sun or she? In my mind, I think it takes all of our spirits to manifest this reality, all of our energy. And that gets into some of the population questions. I don't know if you guys have ever questioned the population of Earth and how that works.
Mm-hmm.
There's an agenda behind depopulation.
Scarcity and
what if the same amount
Georgia
of people,
Guidestones.
what if the same amount of people have always been on Earth? Same amount. All the time.
You mean like they just recycle consciousness?
No, like actual populations. Like there's not 8 billion people here. There never has been.
Well, we talked about that
Wait,
before.
is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying, what if about the same number of people die that are born every day?
Or that there's just always been 8 billion people here?
Yeah. I'm just curious, like.
Well, I guess I never thought about it that way. I have thought about, there's those theories going around a while back. I used to get into it. Yeah, there's not 8 billion people here, right? There's only 500 million people here. And it's like all the censuses around the world are just fucking fake. And they do that for, so they can carry on with their fake money schemes and their fucking scarcity schemes and all that bullshit. And there's really not that many of us out there. It's all bots and shit. Dead internet. I think that was what was going around. The dead internet theory shit.
Internet, NPCs.
Yeah, NPCs and shit.
Yeah, population is an interesting one because I come from one of the most densely populated places on Earth, LA, right? So I get when you have a lot of people in one area, what that looks like. And then I get on Google Maps or whatever, and some of these cities in China, like they built the whole freaking city. There's nobody in them. Like they're ghost cities, right? And ghost towns. And, we're starting to have a homeless like epidemic in the United States here. A lot of people out on the streets in some of these major cities for sure. And I'm just curious, as far as how many people there are actually, how do we know like the numbers are real, like you're talking about?
Yeah, man. I like that. That's the shit I get into.
Should we start counting houses?
No, you can't do that because they just pop up whole neighborhoods, man. I've noticed that, especially around here in Central Florida, man. They're knocking down whole areas of woods, man, and putting whole neighborhoods there. And I know part of it's like, the whole BlackRock buying up the land and all that type of shit. But dude, there's not that many more people like moving here. It just doesn't make sense to me that they're building as much housing as they are, unless some smart city shit's coming and they're going to start forcing people. I don't know, but it's just weird. It's weird. So you could go, my point is like, you can go counting doors, but like how many of those doors are just there? It's just doors, right? For the facade. It's the Truman Show.
Yeah, it could be. Rabbit hole. I hear you, you're fidgeting around a little bit there. Your name brings back a memory of discovering the moon for myself. And I found out that the white rabbit is the face of the moon. face the moon, you can trace the white rabbit. And as it goes through its phases, it goes down the rabbit hole. So this idea of the moon being your white rabbit going down the rabbit hole, and really it's the only thing in the sky that looks physical, right? It looks like a rock. Everything else we see doesn't look physical. So it's the one thing that you can know for sure what it is just through observation yourself throughout your lifetime and asking questions. So many nations' flags depict a crescent moon and a star within it. Pakistan, Turkey, Singapore, a lot of countries do it. And it's been recorded by astronomers that you can see through it, stars through the moon. And we see the moon during the day in the crescent phases, and it looks like sky blue behind it. And like we can see the blue through the crater sometimes. It presents this transparent situation, right? And then we have the moon during its new moon phase, when it's no longer there, not blocking out any stars. Where there should be a physical obstruction, there isn't one, as we trace the path of the moon, the location where it should be. The lunar phenomena themselves, it's one of my favorite studies because there's so much information. And if you understand how your eyes work and how hard it is to see something in focus at distance, right? My eyes are getting worse. I see Jeff up there wearing glasses. Jeff, can you read a newspaper from across the street?
My vision's actually impervious. These are blue blockers, believe it or not, people.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I bet you still can't read a newspaper from across the street.
No, probably not.
Like, that's just not how our eyes work, right? The further something is away, the harder it is to resolve, the smaller it gets. Until we can no longer resolve that information, we cannot see it.
And that's 230 something 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. If you think you can see the detail on something 237,000 miles away, or even see something 237, you don't understand how your eyes work. It's that simple. You don't understand how your eyes work. And that's what the Illuminati symbol is. The Illuminati is saying, look, man, we know how our eyes work. That's why there's an eye on the pyramid. That's why there's a triangle. The triangle, what does it represent? It represents science of perspective, the hallway science, the train tracks converging into one and then disappearing at a distance, right? The tunneling effect, the idea that as we look out, the horizon is formed by the convergence of the sides, the floor, and the ceiling. They come to a point. The floor rises up to your eye level. The ceiling drops down to your eye level. And the sides converge in until you can no longer resolve the information. And this is at specific distances based on, environmental factors, how good your eyes are. But every single person on Earth sees that moon in perfect focus on the horizon and sees the craters and the details with their own eyes. Glasses on or off, doesn't matter. The other quite telling thing is that when it goes above you, perfect focus, I can see it perfectly, then it goes above you, and now it's no longer in focus, and you can't see any of the detail, and it's smaller. Why is the moon always larger on the horizon when it's rising and setting than one above you?
I almost hate to say it, but that's the general relativity from Einstein at work. I know you don't like that, but...
Well, if you think that explains this optical illusion of something looking closer and looking further away, that's okay. But I would say that general relativity doesn't have anything to do with anything we see, because Einstein didn't base any of his information on observations.
No, I would say the argument against what Themor is saying might be just perspective in general, right? And maybe that is what you're saying, Jeremy. But like, there's no reference, right? So like
yeah, it's all theoretical physics.
Right. When the moon is straight above you, there's no reference point for size, like something out on the ocean, right? It's kind of hard to determine how big it is or how far away it is. But when it's on the horizon, you have like trees and shit. You have like a reference in your peripheral.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
but the moon's a hologram, so.
Go ahead, Themor.
Yeah, I was just saying how your eyes work is proven science. You can all do the experiments yourself. You can take a stick and, walk as far as you want to walk and understand how that information is consolidating, how you no longer see the guy's feet. He shrinks, he condenses, that information is lost. So,
are you familiar with
there's a hard limit how far you can resolve information?
Are you familiar with Crow 777?
Yeah, Crow.
Yeah, I had Crow on the show one time. He talked a lot about this kind of stuff, man. It was mind blowing to me then. It's mind blowing to me now.
Yeah, the phenomena that we experience every day that we haven't taken the time to ask the questions about, right? Like, why does the moon appear 10 times larger or more during a supermoon phase, right? They don't give you a scientific explanation for this. They don't tell you why. They can't tell you why. Because if it was of a magnification effect on the horizon, then why isn't anything else magnified? The stars are magnified, nothing else is magnified on the horizon. I can't tell you it's getting 10 times closer because there's a direct correlation between distance and size. Just totally fuck things up, right? So they basically leave you saying it's an illusion in your mind.
Okay. We gotta start wrapping this up. We're already over an hour and a half. I hate to do it.
This is what happens, bro. This is what happens, man.
Themor, hang out for a minute.
Thanks for having me on your show. Do your thing, wrap it up, do what you got to do.
Yeah. Do you have any social links or anything that you want to announce?
No, just follow Shadow Band Podcast and Infinite Rabbit Hole. I like to hang out in their chats and shoot the shit, talk about topics. Good people. Thanks for having me on. I've been on both shows now. And it's been a pleasure, hanging out and shooting the shit with you guys, talking about these fun stuff that we've looked into. Good stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna do this again.
Yeah, I'm down. Anytime.
Yeah. It's gonna have to happen. Jeff, you got anything, man?
I mean, obviously, thanks for coming on this show, and this is my second time having like an actual conversation with you outside of the live chats. So you're an interesting gentleman, and yeah, I would definitely talk to you anytime. So appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, Themor. Good show, man. Good show. Round of applause. This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. This is I don't even know like where to begin.
This is what happened to me when we talked about 9/11 and shit in the second half of on my show or last week, bro. Like I got off and I'll
have to listen.
I messaged Kramer and I was like, "Fuck, bro, did you hear what he was saying?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I was like,
I bought 8 books since the beginning of this episode, just so you know.
God damn, Jeremy, fucking donate a Bitcoin to me or something. Jesus Christ.
No, fuck off.
Fucking asshole.
I bought 8 books, man. I gotta, I didn't know which ones were the good ones, so I just bought them all. Okay, all right. Themor, thanks, man. Really, I like the way that you present information. I like the way that you think about information. I like the way that you break it down. And I need to have more conversations with you. I don't know how else to say that other than just being straightforward with it. I think we need to have some more conversations for sure. All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Themor, hang on when I hit stop. Just hang tight for a minute. For those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, just a reminder that we go live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/Infinite Rabbit Hole. And we are also now on Patreon, where I just dropped the very first episode for exclusive members of the $5 tier. Also, we have a $5 tier for Spotify memberships as well, where you can also find the John Teeter episode. Next month, February, I have 50-something pages worth of Skinwalker Ranch information for you, which I took the old script of 21 pages and exploded it. There is a ton of really, really cool information where we dive into the history of OSAP and the BASM, as well as a lot of other information that was completely skipped over with the first series that we did. That will be a Patreon exclusive for February. And absolutely none of it comes from the television show. So if you got all your Skinwalker Ranch information from the television show, guess what? You're about to learn a shit ton more. So hang tight. All right. That has been another episode of the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. Once again, Themor, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. You're welcome back anytime. In fact, we are going to have to talk about getting you back on at some point because I really do want to pick your brain some more. Until next time, travelers, we'll see you in the next fork in the path of the infinite rabbit hole. Goodbye.
Bye.
Peace, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to infiniterabbithole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Bye.